It is moments like these you're thinking, why didn't I just stay at home? In fact, 26% of the people I asked in a survey in my community tab said that pooping out in nature is the worst thing about hiking. So let me just finish up here. Please, and I will address this issue with pooping along with 4 other things that makes us just want to stay at home rather than go out hiking. Now, see you in a bit. Shoo shoo. Not all things are great when it comes to hiking, and some things are so hard getting used to, people rather stay at home, and this is not a good thing. So let's talk about them one at a time and see what we can do to make it easier. Like I said in the beginning, 26% find pooping to be the worst thing about hiking, and I can totally relate. It took me several years before I found it to be okay. Not good, not great, but okay. And there are some things that you can buy to make it easier. Everything from a crap strap to a poop stool like this outdoor toilet type, if you have problems doing squats. But let's talk about what we can do with what we normally have. These are my best recommendations for a good poop. As a trowel, I don't like the deuce of spades. It weighs in at only 17 grams, but it is a little bit too sharp for my hands. Instead, I've been using the MSR Blizzard peg for many years now, and I find that to be a better choice. It is super easy to dig with, it has round and smooth edges, and weighs in at only 27 grams. And I find it easiest to arrange everything nicely around me before I do what I need to do. Place and prepare the paper nearby, open the wet wipes and have the hand sanitizer open and ready for access. And no, I've been using the dry wet wipes the past year, and sure, they are the lightest way to go, but I don't like them. It is just too much fuss to dip them and soak them in water before I can use them, and I prefer the convenience of real wet wipes in a small package. If you have problems doing a squat, wrap your hands around a tree, or grab hold onto a rock. Nothing is wrong here, and you got to do what you find best and adapt to what nature has to offer. Dig a hole, cover up and mark the location with a stick if possible. If to bury the toilet paper in the hole or not depends on where you're hiking, so have knowledge of the local rules and guidelines and follow them. Getting a good night's sleep, well, 38% of the people who voted in this survey I did in my community tab have a problem sleeping when out hiking, and that can of course depend on a lot of things. One thing could be that you go to bed too early in comparison to your everyday life, because there isn't much to do in camp when the sun sets, so you're not in line with your everyday rhythm. Another thing can be sounds you're not familiar with and that keeps you awake, and every strange sound that you hear is a dangerous animal or some crazy person. This is something you will get used to, of course, but earplugs can help. Now, if we focus on the actual things that we can do and prepare for before we go out backpacking, use a warm enough bag and pad. Staying warm is key for a good night's sleep, and rather have a too warm bag and a pad than risk getting cold. Just worrying about it makes it harder relaxing. Don't even think about using only a cell phone pad and believe you will get a good night's sleep. It is just not going to happen. Instead, invest in an inflatable pad like the Nemo Tensor Alpine or similar. Bring a nice and dedicated pillow and see to it that you try the one you want to bring before the hike. A bad pillow will for sure make your night uncomfortable and miserable. Bring a beanie dedicated for sleeping, even if you use a sleeping bag. A cold head will make it difficult staying warm. And a beanie can also be used as a blindfold to block the morning sun. My last advice for sleeping is something that I have to improve on myself, and that is stretching. After a full day of hiking, if not stretching, there is a big risk of pain in your body and especially your hips. I quite often have pain in my hips, and the only solution for that is to stretch. So just do it and you will thank me later. Next up is the weather, and 29% of the people who voted think that weather is the worst part about hiking and the most difficult one to manage, and I can only agree. You have the rain, the cold, the wind and the warmth, and all need to be managed, and often you get exposed to them all during one hike. But it can also be things like drying your equipment at home after a hike. And if living in a small apartment, this could be a really big issue. Beside the obvious of bringing rain gear, umbrellas, base layers and puffy jackets, and wearing clothes like sun hoodies if you're hiking in an area with a lot of sun is a good idea, but you can also bring. A thin wind jacket is often overlooked, but I find it to be a good and versatile piece of gear. It will block the cold winds and make it easier staying warm, and wear it on top of your t-shirt or fleece depending on the temperature. Some say you can use your rain jacket for that, and sure, that works. But they're often not very breathable, so you will get sweaty and uncomfortable. Rain jackets are expensive, and if you wear them also for protection from the wind, you will wear them down quicker and they will lose its waterproofness, and when it starts to rain, they will not keep you dry. A Wettex cloth. You can clean your tent with it, sponge out water with it, and wipe away condensation in the morning before packing it up. When hiking in the rain for several days, you need to do everything inside your tent, like cooking, eating and packing up your stuff before continue the hike. And this can be a bit tricky, so maybe a good thing could be to practice this on occasion, or at least think about it how it's done before you actually need to do it. Hiking in the rain for several days is no fun, but if you prepare yourself both mentally and bring the gear needed, it's going to be a lot easier. Animals like mosquitoes, rodents and bigger ones like bears and other dangerous animals, if you hike in those areas, is our next topic and something a lot of people are worried about. I have no experience hiking in areas with dangerous animals other than bears, and here in Sweden they are not known or famous for attacking hikers. So let's focus on the smaller ones. Rodents. Well, this is a problem mainly occurring during the autumn, at least in my experience, and the only way to keep them away is to pack your food into these odor-free bags. I don't usually do that, and I've been okay so far, except for one time. But you can use these zip bags from Smelly Proof and other odor-free bags like Milo bags. Then you can find from small bags for your peanuts to bags that will have room enough for all your food for a whole week. The most famous thing packed in these Milo bags is potato chips. And I guess you can just use one of these old bags and throw your food in it and seal it with a clip like this. Now, you guys who pack your food in these odor-free bags not to attract wild animals, what bags do you use? Please let us all know by leaving a comment. Mosquitoes. I hate mosquitoes, but also hate to put on this sticky stuff on my clothes and myself. During the day I just cope with it, and for the evenings I bring a thermocell or a FlexCell device with these small blue pads, and it creates a protective zone allowing me to enjoy the outdoors without being bothered by mosquitoes. I know a lot of people don't like them, but that is how I do it. Or you can buy one of these mosquito head nets at 21 grams, and that will of course keep them off your face. The more you are out hiking, the more you get used to the sound of nature, the mosquitoes and the animals around you, and how to cope sharing the space together with them. The list from the survey I did in my community tab was a long one, and I can't talk about them all in this episode, but we have one left. One we can all relate to, and just as you need to find time to do the actual hike, you also need to add some time to get to the trailhead. Travel to the trailhead and back again is our final thing, and it takes a lot of time, sometimes hours or sometimes even days, but it doesn't have to be that way. I know everybody isn't lucky enough living near a forest and not too far away from Sweden's longest trail, like I do. But hiking is so much more than the longest trail and the highest mountain. The adventure could be right around your corner. It doesn't need to be more complicated than spending a day or two in your local woods or trail, even if you have been there a couple of times before. I usually do a lot of planning for my hikes, but the ones that turns up the best is often the ones not planned at all. So don't wait for the perfect time, the perfect spot for your hike, and just go out there. And remember that it is better to do a short day hike than not to hike at all. Now I hope you enjoyed today's episode about the worst thing about hiking, and if you have anything to add, just leave a comment. Hit like, subscribe and turn on the notifications so you don't miss out on any future content, and I hope to see you again next week. Bye bye.